Do you remember a time when your eyesight felt effortless? When you could read a newspaper in the morning sunlight, recognize a friend from across the street, or watch your grandchildren play without squinting or adjusting the light? For many people over 60, those simple moments slowly begin to change. Words may look slightly blurred. Lights at night may appear brighter than before. At first, it feels like a small inconvenience, something easy to ignore. But what many people don't realize is that one very common ingredient, something quietly added to everyday foods, may be slowly affecting the clarity of their vision. It's not rare, and it doesn't come from unusual foods. In fact, many people consume it every single day without thinking twice. Before we go any further, it's important to understand what happens inside the eye when this ingredient enters the body again and again. Let's start by looking at how sugar begins to affect the delicate lens of the eye. 1. What happens inside your eyes when you eat too much? Added sugar. Now that we've begun to talk about the quiet role sugar may play in vision changes, let's gently look at what actually happens inside the eye when added sugar enters the body again and again over many years. Imagine the clear lens inside your eye like a small window made of delicate glass. When we are young, that window is bright and transparent. Light passes through it easily, and the world looks sharp and full of color. But this tiny window must remain clear for many decades, and that is not always easy. Each time we eat foods with added sugar, the body turns that sugar into energy. In small amounts, this is perfectly normal. But when added sugar appears frequently in daily meals, something subtle begins to happen. Tiny sugar particles travel through the bloodstream and reach many parts of the body, including the small fluid that nourishes the eye's lens. Over time, some of that sugar begins to cling to the delicate building blocks that keep the lens clear. These structures were never meant to hold sugar on their surface. When sugar attaches to them again and again, they slowly begin to lose their smooth shape. They stiffen, they stick together, and little cloudy spots may begin to appear. This change does not happen overnight. It happens quietly, little by little, often over many years. Think of it like cooking egg whites in a pan. Before heat touches them, the egg whites are clear and almost invisible. But once heat changes their structure, they turn cloudy and white. The same kind of slow change can happen inside the lens of the eye when sugar repeatedly interacts with it over time. Many older adults are surprised when they learn this because they feel they rarely eat sweets. They may not eat cakes or candy every day, but added sugar can appear in very ordinary foods. For example, someone might begin the morning with flavored yogurt, which can contain several teaspoons of sugar. Later, there may be toast with jam or a cup of coffee with sweet creamer. None of these choices feel extreme. They feel normal and comforting, part of a familiar routine that has been followed for years. Yet those small amounts of added sugar, repeated day after day, slowly expose the eye's delicate lens to more sugar than it was designed to handle. This is why many people begin noticing subtle changes in their vision as the years pass. The lens is still there, still working, but it may no longer be as perfectly clear as it once was. And this leads us to an important question that many people begin asking once they understand this connection. If sugar can slowly affect the clarity of the lens over time, why does this seem to happen more often after the age of 60? In the next part, we'll take a closer look at why the aging body becomes more sensitive to added sugar and why the eyes may feel the effects more strongly in later years. 2. Why added sugar affects vision, more after the age of 60. In the previous part, we talked about how added sugar can slowly cling to the delicate structures inside the eye and gradually affect the clarity of the lens. But many people naturally wonder something important. If sugar has always been part of our diets, why do these vision changes seem to appear more often later in life, especially after the age of 60? The answer lies in the quiet changes that happen inside the body as the years pass. When we are younger, the body has a remarkable ability to handle sugar. After a sweet meal, the body works quickly to move sugar out of the bloodstream and use it for energy. The system is fast and flexible. The eyes, like the rest of the body, are protected by this balance. But as we grow older, the body begins to slow down in small, almost invisible ways. sugar may stay in the bloodstream a little longer than it once did. The body may take more time to return to its natural balance after a sweet snack or a sugary drink. This means the delicate parts of the body, including the eyes, may be exposed to sugar for longer periods of time than they were in earlier years. Think of it like a gentle river flowing through a quiet valley. When the current is smooth and steady, everything stays clear and balanced. But if too much sugar flows through that river too often, the water becomes heavy and slow, and tiny particles begin to settle where they were never meant to stay. For the eye's clear lens, those tiny particles of sugar can slowly begin to leave their mark. Let me share a simple example that many older adults recognize. A retired school teacher once told me that she rarely ate desserts and always believed her diet was quite balanced. Her mornings were peaceful and predictable. She enjoyed a cup of coffee with sweet creamer, a bowl of fruit yogurt, and sometimes toast with jam. None of these felt excessive. In fact, they felt like comforting habits built over many years. But when she looked closely at the labels on those foods, she was surprised to see how much added sugar they quietly contained. Each item alone seemed small, yet together, morning after morning, they created a steady stream of sugar moving through her body. Over time, she began to notice that reading felt harder in the evening and bright lights seemed stronger than before. The change was slow, almost unnoticed at first. Stories like this are very common because added sugar often hides inside foods that feel completely ordinary. And this realization naturally leads to another important question. If sugar can quietly appear in so many everyday foods, how can we recognize where it is hiding in our daily meals? In the next part, we will gently explore some of the most common places where added sugar tends to appear without people realizing it. 3. The quiet places where added sugar hides in everyday foods. After hearing how added sugar can quietly affect the clarity of the eye over time, many people begin asking a very honest question. But where is all this sugar coming from? After all, most older adults do not sit down and eat bowls of candy or slices of cake every day. In fact, many believe they are already careful with sweets. The surprising truth is that added sugar often hides in foods that do not look like desserts at all. It slips quietly into ordinary meals, especially the small routines that feel comforting and familiar after many years. Think about a typical morning in many homes. The day may begin with a simple breakfast, a cup of coffee with sweet creamer, a bowl of fruit yogurt, and perhaps a slice of toast with a little jam. Nothing about this feels unusual. It feels warm, familiar, and even healthy. But when someone looks closely at the labels on those foods, a quiet pattern often appears. That fruit yogurt may contain several teaspoons of added sugar. The jam spread on the toast may contain even more. The sweet creamer in the coffee may add another small spoonful without anyone noticing. One older gentleman once shared a story that many people can relate to. After retiring, he enjoyed slow mornings at the kitchen table with his wife. They would drink coffee together, share toast with jam, and talk about their grandchildren. It was a peaceful ritual that had been part of their lives for decades. Yet during a routine visit with his doctor, he began paying closer attention to the sugar in everyday foods. When he counted the small amounts hidden in his breakfast alone, he realized that his morning routine quietly contained far more sugar than he had ever imagined. None of the foods seemed extreme, but together they formed a steady stream of sweetness entering the body every single day. Over time, those small amounts of added sugar can build up, especially when they appear again later in the day in foods like bottled sauces, packaged bread, or sweet drinks. Because these foods do not taste overly sweet, many people never suspect that sugar is present. And that is why added sugar can quietly become part of daily life without anyone truly noticing it. Once people begin to see where sugar is hiding, something important often happens. They start asking a new question. If these small, hidden amounts of sugar appear throughout the day, is there a gentle way to reduce them without giving up the foods and routines they enjoy? That question leads us to the next part, where we will look at simple and practical ways people can begin lowering added sugar in everyday meals while still enjoying the comfort of familiar foods. 4. Small daily changes that can help reduce added sugar. After discovering how quietly added sugar can appear in everyday foods, many people begin to feel a little uneasy. They may wonder if protecting their eyesight means giving up the simple meals and small comforts they have enjoyed for years. But the good news is that protecting your eyes does not require dramatic changes or strict diets. Often, it begins with small, gentle adjustments that slowly reduce added sugar while keeping familiar routines intact. Imagine a quiet morning at the kitchen table. Sunlight comes through the window, the coffee is warm, and the house is peaceful. For many people, this moment is part of a daily rhythm that brings comfort. The goal is not to remove that comfort, but simply to make small choices that allow the body to experience less added sugar over time. For example, someone who usually begins the day with sweetened yogurt might try plain yogurt instead, adding a few slices of fresh fruit for natural sweetness. The taste remains pleasant, but the hidden sugar is greatly reduced. Another person who enjoys toast with jam every morning might choose to spread mashed berries or a thin layer of peanut butter instead. The habit remains the same, but the amount of added sugar quietly drops. One woman in her 70s once shared how she made these changes slowly. She had always loved sweet creamer in her morning coffee. At first, she simply used a smaller amount. After a few weeks, she tried adding a little milk instead. Over time, her taste adjusted, and she found that she still enjoyed her coffee just as much. What surprised her most was how natural the change felt once she gave her body time to adapt. Small adjustments like these do not feel like sacrifice. They feel like gentle shifts that allow the body to return to a more balanced rhythm. When added sugar appears less often throughout the day, the body has an easier time maintaining steady energy, and the delicate parts of the body, including the eyes, are exposed to less sugar over time. Many people find comfort in knowing that they do not have to change everything at once. Even one or two small adjustments each day can gradually make a difference over the months and years ahead. As these changes become part of everyday life, a new sense of awareness begins to grow. People start to notice how their choices affect their energy, their comfort, and sometimes even the clarity of their vision. This naturally leads to a deeper question many people begin asking once they have taken these first steps. If reducing added sugar can help protect the eyes over time, what other gentle habits might support healthy vision as we grow older? In the final part, we will reflect on how simple daily choices can help care for the eyesight we rely on every single day. 5. Caring for your eyes through gentle daily choices. As we have seen, added sugar can quietly appear in many everyday foods, and over time, those small amounts may slowly affect the delicate parts of the eye. Once people understand this connection, a new way of thinking often begins to grow. Instead of feeling worried about every meal, many simply start paying closer attention to the small choices they make each day. The truth is that our eyes serve us faithfully for decades. They help us read letters from loved ones, watch the laughter of grandchildren, and notice the beauty of a sunset at the end of a long day. Because they work so quietly, we rarely stop to think about how much they do for us until changes begin to appear. That is why gentle care becomes so important as the years pass. Think of it like tending a small garden. When a garden receives steady care, good soil, and the right amount of water, it continues to grow and flourish. But when too much of something harmful slowly builds up, the plants begin to struggle. Our bodies respond in much the same way. One older couple once shared how they began making small changes together after learning about hidden sugar in their meals. They didn't overhaul their entire diet overnight. Instead, they started with simple steps. They replaced sweetened drinks with water or unsweetened tea. They chose plain yogurt and added fresh fruit at home. They cooked more meals together instead of relying on packaged foods. What surprised them most was not just the change in their meals, but the change in how they felt. They described having steadier energy during the day and feeling more aware of what their bodies needed. These small steps didn't feel like restrictions. They felt like a quiet way of caring for themselves. Moments like these remind us that protecting our eyesight is not about perfection, it is about awareness. When we begin to notice where added sugar appears and gently reduce it, we give our eyes a better chance to remain clear and comfortable for years to come. Many people who take these steps say something interesting after a few months. They begin to feel more connected to their daily habits. Meals become more thoughtful, choices become more intentional, and that sense of awareness often spreads into other parts of life as well. As we reach the end of this discussion, one idea becomes very clear. The health of our eyes is closely tied to the small decisions we make every day. And when we understand how something as common as added sugar may slowly affect our vision, we gain the power to make choices that support the clarity we hope to keep for many years ahead. 6. The quiet decision that can protect your vision for years to come. As we reflect on everything we have discussed, one gentle truth begins to stand out. The health of our eyes is not shaped by one single meal or one occasional treat. It is shaped by the quiet habits that repeat themselves day after day, year after year. And among those habits, the amount of added sugar we consume often plays a larger role than we realize. For many people over 60, the most powerful change does not come from strict rules or sudden diets. It comes from a simple decision made with awareness. A decision to look more closely at the foods that appear in daily life and to slowly reduce the added sugar that may be hiding inside them. This decision does not need to happen overnight. In fact, the most lasting changes are often the gentlest ones. Imagine someone who begins by making just one small adjustment. Perhaps they switch from sweetened drinks to water or warm tea. A few weeks later, they choose plain yogurt instead of the sweetened kind they once bought every week. Over time, their taste begins to change, and foods that once felt normal begin to taste much sweeter than before. Many people are surprised by how quickly the body adapts when given the chance. One grandfather once shared how he began reading food labels after learning about hidden sugar. At first it felt strange, almost unnecessary. But soon he noticed that many of the foods he bought every week contained more sugar than he expected. By choosing simpler foods and cooking more meals at home, he slowly reduced the amount of sugar in his daily routine. Months later, he said something that stayed with me. He said the change did not feel like losing something. Instead, it felt like gaining control over his health in a quiet and steady way. Stories like these remind us that caring for our eyesight does not require perfection. It simply requires awareness and a willingness to make small, thoughtful choices. And as we move toward the final part of this discussion, there is one last idea worth remembering. Our eyesight allows us to experience the faces, places, and moments that make life meaningful. Protecting it begins with understanding the habits that influence it the most. In the next moment, we will bring these ideas together and reflect on how small choices today may help preserve clear vision for the years ahead.